In this video, we're going to take a look at a black ink by Noodler, a part of their Warden series, Bad Black Moccasin. Now, as always, there's timestamps down below so you can skip around, but if you've got the time, I'd appreciate you checking out the entire video. Also, down in the description is a link to the black ink playlist, so if you wanted to see more, you can find that there. I'm an ink guy, and let's get into the first writing sample done on 90 GSM Clairfontaine. No bleeding, no ghosting. We get no feather, spread, no shading, very little tone variation. The extra fine and the medium that are about the same tone are only slightly lighter than the stub. The extra fine took 8 seconds to dry and the medium took 14. Scrubby for both show no color variation and there is none there, and the smear test you could not recover if you smeared while you were writing. To have a range of experience with this ink, all of the writing samples are done with a Jinhao 159 with a 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X450 with a medium, and a Jinhao X750 with an extra fine. Then a Noodler's Nib Creeper was inked up, used for a day, and used to take the notes for this video. The next writing sample is done on 52 GSM Tomoe River. No bleeding, but we do get some ghosting, thin paper and all. We have no feather, no spread, no shading, but again, very distinct tone variation, the extra fine and medium being the same tone, both of them a little bit lighter than the stub. Extra fine took 16 seconds to dry and the medium took 28. Scrubby for both give no color variation and there is none in the writing, and a smear test I do not think you could recover if you smeared while you were writing. I agree with Vita. There's a lot to learn by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. A line of ink is put down and then it's put into water for 10 to 15 seconds. And this is an interesting black in that at the very bottom you see a green tone. Now it moves up and you start to see the black that's there, but at the very top you see a very light purple leaning color. Now the one on the right that's let dry for 10 minutes, really forming a line very dark at the bottom. It's bonding with the paper quite quick, showing how resistant it's going to be. You see some of that green pushing up lighter. You do see some of that black that's there, again, much lighter, and that very light purple tone at the top. The next writing sample is done on 80 GSM Rhodia dot pad. No bleeding, no ghosting. We have no feather, no spread, no shading. The extra fine is the same tone as the medium, same tone as the stub. So no tone variation here. The only thing that looks different about it is the thickness of the line. But close up and folding them so they're next to each other, nothing. The extra fine took 10 seconds to dry and the medium took 16. Scrubby for both give no color variation because there is none. Great solid performing black. The smear test says you could not recover if you smeared while you were writing. Resistance tests are done to see how this ink could be expected to perform on a page, and more importantly, how hard it may be to clean from your pen. The smear is allowed to dry for 3 days before testing. Looking at the highlighter, while some of this ink is moving, making the highlighter fluid look a bit muddy, all of the information is readable, but I would not use that in a note-taking situation. Water is having no effect whatsoever on this ink. It's doing nothing. Pen flush is starting to move a little bit of that purple tone. You see it's pushed off to the side just a little bit. 1/3 bleach solution isn't even doing very much. It's moving the darkest tones, but a lot of it's left behind. Now, this ink is made to be very resistant, which is what it's supposed to be. But it only took water to get it out of that pen, so it didn't have any issues there. The next writing sample is done on Franklin Christoph paper. We do have a few spots that are coming through in the stub, which has been writing very wet lately. Now, this spotting does not come through and corrupt the page underneath. It just might stop you from using the back of the page, but no problems with any of the other writing. We have no feather, no spread. Taking a second look, but it looks like there is some minor feathering at the beginning in Noodler's in the stub, where we did see it coming through the paper a little bit, but not all the way through. No feathering in the extra fine or in the medium, light feathering in some of the stub. No spread, no shading in the writing. Now the extra fine looks lighter than the stub, and the stub looks than the medium, and the medium looks just a little lighter than the stub. So we're definitely getting some tone variation by pen. The extra fine took 5 seconds to dry, and the medium took 7. The scrubby for both give no color variation, but we're getting no shading in the writing. The smear test says you could not recover if you smeared while you were writing. For the inks tested, the average viscosity was 2.5, with the realm of normal being from 2.1 to 2.9. Noodler's Bad Black Moccasin has a viscosity of 2.45, making it normal. If you're interested in how the viscosity test and all of that's done, then down in the description are links to that video. The next writing sample is done on original crown mill paper. No bleeding, no ghosting. We have no feather, no spread, no shading, no tone variation. Despite how it does, it's just the thicker lines that's making that stub look a little darker than the extra fine, but in fact they're the same tone. Extra fine took 7 seconds to dry while the medium took 9. Scrubby for both gave no color variation, because this gives none in the writing, and the smear test you could not recover if you smeared while you were writing. For the inks tested, the average dry time was 17 seconds, with the realm of normal being from 13 to 21 seconds. Noodler's Bad Black Moccasin has an average dry time of 15 seconds, so it's normal. The last writing sample is done on Canson Bristol paper. Now there's no bleeding and there's no ghosting, and to be honest, I would be surprised if there was. It's really an art paper, and I don't use this very often on the channel, although I do test it quite a bit because I like using it for a lot of my own personal artwork. We get no feathering, no spread, no shading, no color variation. It's performing very well here, really. The extra fine took 6 seconds to dry and the medium took 9. I was just curious about possibly using this for watercolors, but I don't know that that's really what I'm going to use it for based on the highlighter from the resistance test. The scrubby for both give no color variation, and there is none in the writing. Now the smear test you maybe could recover if you smeared while you were writing. Instead of finding inks that look like Noodler's Bad Black Moccasin, I'd prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. I decided to go with a green ink by Monteverde based on that green tone in the chromatography, and I went with Monteverde's Erinite. Now if you'd prefer a different complement color, then down in the description are links to those playlists. So what do I think of Noodler's Warden series Bad Black Moccasin? This is a really good, dark, solid black with no shading. I like it. And it comes with the added security feature of this ink. So what nib and pen give the best writing experience with this ink? It never gives any shading, so I really see this more as a dealer's choice. I didn't have any real problem, and even its darker tone, even its lighter tones that showed up in the writing samples were still a very dark black. I hope you got something out of this video, and in the next video, we're going to take a look at Sailor Kobe's number 15.